sound turned down.
Come back from the.
Okay, we'll keep sound down.
Okay, another minute.
And have him start sending
Thanks.
ones over for
Good morning. I'd like to call to order, please, the meeting for Queen Anne's County Planning Commission for 10 March 2022. If you would join me, please, with reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning once again. Mr. Shelton, are there any public comments this morning signed up or otherwise?
I do for project.
For project only, okay, thank you much. Meeting minutes and review.
Motion to approve.
There's been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. No extension requests that I'm aware of, Madam Director, is that correct? Updates and legislation, legal matters, miscellaneous staff items then, please.
Good morning. Amy Murdoch, Planning Director. Just a few quick updates on legislation that has come before you. You may recall during the last year's citizen-sponsored text amendment session, there was a request to modify the utility scale solar district to allow for a project which had some acreage located within that district. The Planning Commission requested that the applicant extend those conditions that would make such a project acceptable, and adding additional conditional use provisions relative to commensurate acreage that would be protected in some kind of an easement. The applicant has at long last done so, and that updated text amendment from 2021, which was Amendment 2104, has been submitted and is now going through the County Commissioner's process. And otherwise, that was favorably reviewed by this board with those additions that they have addressed. When we last met, we looked at Text Amendment 2109, which looked at the shooting club definition, which received an unfavorable recommendation to amend, which in result was a recommendation to take no action. And that recommendation to take no action was supported by the county commissioners, and that text amendment is defunct before introduction. Just a few miscellaneous staff notes. I'd let you know that we were looking to hire a permit technician and a zoning inspector. We have done so, and both of those new employees will start with the county on the 30th of March, and that will officially bring the Planning and Zoning Department up to full staff, which is a great feeling. In addition, I just wanted to let you know about some of the collaborative efforts that staff is working on with other agencies, just so that you're aware of sort of some of the things that we're working on. We're working with the clerk of courts to address some of the plat requirements that are specific to Queen Anne's County. When that moves through the process a little more, I'll update you on what we're working on. There are Queen Anne's County specific plat requirements, which is quite unique in the annotated code. We are working with MACO and with some of our other legislative liaisons at bills. Currently, Rob Tracy is the staff member who generally updates you. Right now, all of those bills are sort of working their way through the process, and next month he'll give you updates on the status of the bills he's shared with you in the past. We're working with the Economic Development Commission on several initiatives, and as they come to fruition, we'll update you. And just to let you know, we are working with the Kent Narrows Development Foundation on several initiatives, including making sure that they are satisfied with their community plan update. And so there were some technical edits and some technical edits to the maps that we were looking at base layers that should have been used. And so that you're aware, before the, or not before, but as a part of the public hearing for our comprehensive plan, which is the 22nd of March at the county commissioners level, there will be technical edits to correct some maps and some typos and things of that nature. That's all I have.
I have a question about the plat issue you're working on with the court. So is that to streamline a process? Is that to make it more homogeneous with the rest of the state? Will that ease a burden for homeowners or business owners? Or what kind of is the nature of that? Just curious.
So there are very unique requirements relative to plat notes.
Yep.
And what has to be certified by property owners and the department relative to subdivision plats and what isn't a subdivision plat. So it's really, it will streamline for the surveyors more so,
Okay.
which in effect streamlines for residents. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Mordock, and congratulations on being fully staffed.
Yes,
That was
thank
a long, steady climb for you and your colleagues. All right, first item up for bid this morning is Major Site Plan SP number 20-020051, Eastern Shore Exodus LLC. Mr. Davis and Mr. Gunter.
Come on, hop along. Good morning, everybody. Rob Gunter with the Department of Planning and Zoning. As Mr. Lee mentioned, we are here first for Eastern Shore Exodus, who is proposing to redevelop 3 parcels along Dundee Avenue in Chester. They are seeking to construct an 8-unit apartment building and an additional building with first-floor office space and 3 second-floor commercial apartments. And today they are requesting major site plan approval. Here we have the general location. You can see it's on Kent Island on the east side, just west of the Kent Narrows. This is an aerial view of the property. The top of the screen is oriented to your north. To support this development, the applicant has proposed an administrative subdivision to reconfigure the lot lines on parcels 90, 91, and 92. The acreage is shown will be the resulting acres, if that's approved. The structures on parcels 90, which is this one, if you can see my cursor, and the middle one, 91, are proposed to be removed, and the structure to the south along Route 18 and the corner of Dundee is proposed to remain. The property is zoned town center, and it lies within the Chester-Stevensville growth area, as well as the county's enterprise zone. Excuse me. Maybe I should have taken that water. The property is located entirely within the Chesapeake Bay critical area. As you can see, the red right there inside the yellow, it's designated IDA currently. In 2014, they received a final critical area growth allocation. With that growth allocation approval came conditions. The applicant has submitted a narrative that explains how they plan to address each condition, and that should have been included in your packet for your review. And according to that information, they will meet all conditions of that growth allocation approval. So here is a clip of the site plan. This is actually the landscape plan. The orientation has been flipped so it fits. The right-hand side of the screen is now north. Building 1, first floor will have just over 2,400 square feet of office space. The second floor will have 3 one-bedroom units. Building 2 will be 2 stories and will contain 8 one-bedroom apartments. In 2018, the project received an amended conditional use approval from the Planning Commission, and in part of that approval, they were granted a parking reduction, reduced setbacks, and an increase in density for up to 20 units per acre. The project meets and exceeds all landscaping requirements. Part of the growth allocation conditions was additional landscaping. They have met this. You can see the darker circles, in particular the ones with the numbers and letters, throughout the 3 parcels as well as the adjoining parcel 311. This project is placing landscaping on adjacent parcels as well, which the code does permit. They just have to record a legal document saying that it belongs to the project and they'll maintain. The project proposes less than the maximum floor area as well as less than the maximum impervious area permitted by the code. It's served by public water and sewer, and stormwater is addressed on site and has been reviewed by the Department of Public Works. This is kind of a busy thing, but I always like to show you, if I can, what the project will look like in an aerial image. So again, orientation, the north is to the right. This is building 1, where my cursor is, in the parking. Building 2 is in the middle with the associated parking. And the purple outline is the building that is to remain. And you can see the development kind of spans these property lines. That's why the administrative subdivision will be proposed. So this is the rendering for building 1. Again, first floor office space. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the site, but the left side of this building would be the funeral home that's existing, and the left side of the right image would be Dundee Avenue side of the building. 3 one-bedroom apartments up top. This is building 2 with 8 apartments in it. And again, this is what you will see from Dundee and the back side of the building, which will be seen from the funeral home parking lot. And the last image is the existing building that's to remain, and you can see they're fairly consistent with each other, which was, again, another requirement of the growth allocation approval. So with that,
That's a mixed-use building as well.
it is. It's first floor commercial, I believe. I think it's a flower shop with apartments on the second floor. And with that, I will do my best to answer any questions you may have or turn it over to the applicant to add anything.
Just a clarification, please, Mr. Gunter. On your report, it says the stormwater management plan has been reviewed by DPW. Did I hear you correctly when you said that that has now been approved?
They have reviewed and approved it. There's still some minor outstanding comments that will be addressed as a condition of approval, just like every other approval.
Thank you.
Minor in nature.
Anything else, questions for Mr. Gunter? Mr. Davis?
Rob, can you pull up your plan that shows the site plan? That's fine. So my name's Tom Davis, professional engineer with DMS and Associates. This is Chad Helfenbein, one of the owners of Eastern Shore Exodus LLC. The Eastern Shore Exodus LLC owns these 5 parcels and actually another parcel to the north of this. And the 2 parcels, 90 and 91, exist with old single-family homes on them. They're pretty much in a bad state of disrepair when they acquired them over the last 10, 15 years. So there's 2 existing single-family residences on those. The intent is to demolish both of those and then redevelop the strip along Dundee Avenue. So the building on Building 1 will house the offices of Helfenbein Newnham Funeral Fellows offices. They're currently located in the existing funeral home building, but because of services going on in the building, they want to pull their administrative offices away from that so it doesn't distract from, services going on in the building. And then the second floor will be 3 small one-bedroom apartments. They're trying to attract employees to their businesses, and this is a way that they feel that they can attract employees that'll stay, provide them reasonable housing, for that building. So that, the two of those properties there, Building 1 and the existing funeral home, are tied in that regard. The Building 2 would be a two-story, 8-unit apartment, again, very small units to provide workforce and affordable housing in accord with the county's goals and objectives for need for these kind of apartments. Right now, there's 3 existing accesses on Dundee Avenue. With this, we're consolidating them into 2. The travel lanes are all tied together, which is part of the TC design guidelines, is to consolidate and utilize access from one parcel to the other, and that's achieved with this. I just want to say that the one existing building on parcel 90, the tenants there were visited by the police recently, and we're trying to take care of an issue that was criminal in nature. So that's one of the reasons to try to demolish these old houses, is to spruce up the neighborhood. As you can see from the elevation drawings, that they're both attractive buildings, match the existing building, and we believe that this is in accord with the goals and objectives of the town center and the community plans for the county. It provides a need, addresses their business concerns, the stormwater management, utilities, all of that has been reviewed by agencies. As Rob indicated, there's minor comments. We don't think that there's anything that we can't overcome. They're working with the bank to secure a loan. We're working on estimates for stormwater management, all the items that they have to post the sureties to address the county code. It's been a long process. We started with their father back in 2014. We came back in 2018 and refined it based on their goals and objectives with the building. So the growth allocation was approved by this planning commission, I think, in 2018 in concept.
Growth allocation was finally approved by the commissioners in 14.
Right.
And then the concept plan was then amended in 18.
Yeah, so we refined it. Some of the board members that are here may have remembered that. And then we just have been going through issues with surveying, engineering, and we are today for the conditional final approval. So, Chad, if I've misspoke about the intent of your goals and objectives for the business standpoint, you can chime in. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have.
Am I doing the math right on the one building? It's the only one that had square footage. These are 800 square foot apartments.
They're pretty small, yeah. They're 1 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And again,
Is there room for anything else? Is there a bathroom in there too?
Yeah.
Somewhere? Okay,
Actually, just the building that's up on the screen,
Yeah.
they have similar
Okay.
size apartments.
I was just a curiosity thing.
Yeah, they're, what, 700, 800?
Those are 700.
So similar to our DMS, Centerville Landholding Building here where my office is in town, they're just small.
Okay.
Intent is to try to keep them 1 bedroom, not create a family atmosphere, because the commercial family mix just doesn't work, with traffic and what have you. So it's intended to keep it to a minimum number of bedrooms. So.
Mr. Davis, Rob, if you don't mind bringing up the aerial, sort of the satellite view of the, there you go. Obviously Dundee is a residential street. Have you and DPW sort of coordinated how that you're going to maintain access for those residents?
Yes, so as far as during construction?
Correct.
Yeah, what we will do is we will have what's called a pre-construction meeting with the Department of Public Works staff, and the selected contractor will work out, okay, I'm going to do the widening this day and make sure that they have traffic control. There's notes all over the plan that the contractor selected to do the work will coordinate with the Department of Public Works staff to assure, access, probably just be 1 lane closure. Our improvements are limited to the subject project site. We're widening out the road to provide a curb and gutter there, similar to what exists on the original building. If you notice, you can see curb and gutter and sidewalk. So the curb and gutter and sidewalks will extend all the way down I guess that's the east side of Dundee Avenue to the limits of the project. So there'll be a pedestrian connection from that sidewalk to the existing sidewalk. And as a condition of the growth allocation, is not shown on this plan, but we're also extending the sidewalk across the frontage of parcel 93 to tie into the sidewalks over on Shamrock Road. So that's all part of the conditions of growth allocation. So,
And then lastly, the stormwater outfall that sort of goes under Dundee onto that, I don't see a number, but 108 sort of to the east of 91 there. All of those easements and
So-
agreements have been worked out as well?
You'll have to remind me of her name. Mrs. Wicker. Mrs. Wicker. We met out at the site, and she has agreed to allow the county, with our design, to widen out the ditch, and we're upgrading the twin pipes underneath of Dundee Avenue to accommodate runoff from not only this site, but there's a significant amount of drainage that comes
Right.
down Route 8 through there, so.
Oh, that 9 acres.
Yeah, so all of that's been reviewed with critical areas, stormwater management,
I
DPW.
didn't see a note in the staff report regarding that particular landowner. I just presumed it's there, but don't assume.
So Ms. Wicker and the Health and Biden boys, they go way back, so, right? I mean, so.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I got two people signed up for public comment, please. Liam Shanley.
I have something to pass out for you all.
Give it to Mr. Shelton, he'll make it, pass it out to us, and then I guess you could either use the podium, Mr. Shanley, or you can have a seat, whichever you
Okay,
prefer.
I'll use the podium, thank you. My name is Liam Shanley. I am a resident of Dundee Avenue, and I am here on behalf of my neighbors and myself. We believe the proposed plan would have an overall negative impact on our road and would not be beneficial to us, the residents of Dundee Avenue, in any way. The proposed plan would add to the existing traffic issue, an issue that has been unaddressed for years. The residents of Dundee Avenue are on record as far back as 1989 asking planning and zoning to address our road's traffic issue. In recent years, this problem has only gotten worse. In those 32 years, we've seen built at the Route 18 end of our road townhouses as well as a business apartment complex that already exists, as well as Red Apple Town Center complex off of Shamrock Road. All of this has added unwanted and increased traffic down Dundee Avenue. Cars going to Red Apple Town Center speed down Dundee Avenue instead of using Shamrock Road. Since built, the delivery vans and tenants from the business apartment complex speed down our road daily. Recently, someone living on Dundee Court crashed into a parked truck, neighbor's tree totaling both their car and the truck. We've asked for assistance from the Sheriff's Department for radar patrol and speed trailers, all with no success in stopping the speeding or traffic. Incidents on Route 50 or Route 18 bring speeding cars down our road, using it as a throughway. At times, the traffic comes to a standstill and we are unable to exit our driveways. Summer brings even more unwanted traffic anytime there is a backup going eastbound on Route 50 or westbound on Route 18. As proposed, 2 buildings with a total of 11 apartments would be built, housing possibly double that if not occupied by a single person. That is roughly 20+ vehicles. The width of our road and its current age and condition cannot handle that large of an increase in vehicles without first addressing the existing traffic issue and road itself. Our sewer system is also old and frequently blocks up, as recent as this February. With its current age and strain, can it handle the increased load these new buildings will create? My neighbors and I oppose this project as we would be negatively impacted by it. This project should not be approved without first addressing the existing and long unanswered traffic problem Dundee Avenue has. Traffic will only increase in the years to come, and without an adequate solution to help mitigate and decrease the amount of traffic our road currently faces, we do not see how this project can be approved. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Shanley. Would you mind pointing out, please, your address 124 on
Yes,
the, on that satellite view?
Yes, my
Oh, I'm
address
sorry.
would
That's
be, it's not pictured on the screen, it is,
I can pull up a map for
okay,
you.
thank you.
You're north of that view?
Yes, I'm closest to the Route 50 end of our road, so that would be parcel 57?
Okay.
Or-
168.
No, what was that, sir?
168.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Gwynn Davis.
Thank you. I own 120, which is 2 houses down on the same side as Liam's house. I bought not that long ago, 2.5 years ago. I like the street. I like the feel of the street. It is a residential street. Reminds me of something out of Mayberry. Just listening to the proposed plans, the business aspect of it, that it might, benefit some people. With all respect, I see who it would benefit. I don't believe it's going to benefit property owners. I think it's going to affect our property values negatively. That's a huge concern I have. My house is older, but I have been working on improving it since I bought it. I put major repairs immediately. But, the buildings look beautiful, but at the same time, if you're widening the street to put a sidewalk, you're not widening the street for traffic. It's only going to widen it enough to put a sidewalk. It sounds like it's so narrow, you can barely, what I have found anyway, pass without having to really stretch over. I just feel like the charm of that street is that it's residential. We have all of that area on the other side of Shamrock, but all of the entranceways, I believe, if I understand, would only be on Dundee to this building, these buildings, am I right?
So this entrance, if you can see my cursor, will cross through the property. So you'll be able to access both streets through.
The streets? Okay,
Yes.
because I had heard it would only be Dundee. So I guess, also just the fact, there is limited ability to get through, of course, with when the tide is high. That area of that road of Main Street will close off anyway. There's just a lot of concerns I have. As a property owner, as the little guy, this is my home. I can't afford to do everything at one time, but I'm certainly working on it. I know my neighbors. It's a safe neighborhood. I like my neighborhood. I like the feel of my neighborhood. So I just wanted to express that. It all sounds great and wonderful, but I just don't believe it's going to be beneficial to people who own the houses there on the street, and I think it's going to negatively affect our property values. Okay. Did anybody want to ask me anything at all before I sit down? We good?
So.
Thank you.
That's all I have signed up. Is there anyone in the audience that did not get a chance to sign up that would like to speak? I'll get Mr. Porter coming up here.
Ray, how about some speed bumps?
I'm Trey Porter with Queen Anne's County Department of Public Works. I just want to address some of the concerns that the citizens' comments identified for the roadway on Dundee Avenue. This particular development we felt was consistent with the IDA, the development, the zoning, things of that nature. We also did require overlay. The road's not widened, but there is going to be curb and gutter, and during the review process, we basically looked at this as a typical opportunity when development comes in to provide an overlay and to improve the road to account for the proposed use.
So the curb and gutter, Mr. Porter, is going to run the entire length of Dundee, or just a portion where you're resurfacing for the construction?
The extent of the development.
Got it.
Which is typical for a new development like this.
And was there any consideration or conversation around some traffic calming measures at all to address the speeding concerns and volume concerns?
There have been informal conversations with staff over the years. Everything from cutting off the access to 5301 at the end of Dundee and making Shamrock the primary means to get onto 5301. That was a casual discussion. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's something we can revisit. It seems to me that there's some interest from the public and the community in that area to look into that, and that's something that we can further discuss with staff.
How about speed bumps?
Typically, the county does not like speed bumps because of plowing and other things, and I'm just telling you the logistics behind it, and you're aware of that, but there are traffic calming measures that you can do besides speed bumps that also are problematic, but there's different solutions. We can look at traffic calming, but this is definitely a straightaway that leads to 5301. And I can understand the community's concerns and observations, frankly, of the speeds and potentially unsafe conditions. And we will look into that. However, I do support the development because it does meet the requirements, and it's consistent with obviously the zoning and critical with my purview, the stormwater management. They've done what was required with stormwater management. So Yeah, again, I can say that we can look into traffic calming on Dundee, but for this particular development, the developer's done what we've asked.
So it would be the department's position then, it would be preferred, let's say, as opposed to a speed bump, to terminate, could you pan up just a little bit, Rob, to the north end of that Dundee, and instead make that a cul-de-sac, if you will, or at least disconnect that from the straightaway run to Route 50?
There has been informal discussions on that. No conclusion's been reached, and it's something that we can look into further.
No one's spoken to the neighborhood about that specifically to these people?
I know of one person that has spoke to county staff regarding that particular issue, and that's
You know, I don't, without, you don't need to name names, were they okay with that, or were they not okay with that?
seemed to be okay with that, and this was an owner, not an occupant. It was a rental property.
All right.
But there's been no decisions reached or no design as a result of the informal discussions that we've had, but we can look into it more.
Hey, right or wrong, it seems to me, now this is where we have to read into what they're telling us. You had two people come up here that it sounds to me like traffic is the main issue. And you should be able to pretty easily fix that. I mean, I'm not saying it'll satisfy them, but you pretty easily fix that with a cul-de-sac, as Mr. Lee said, or taking away the entrances off Dundee and having them come in off Shamrock.
I don't disagree. I think that there are certainly some questions how logistically you would put a turnaround at the end of that's required for fire access and emergency vehicle access.
Well, I think you could even just block it off and put a big old sign at one end that says no, no exit, dead end, or whatever it is you put up.
Possibly. I think there would
people learn pretty quick.
I think there'd need to be an emergency turnaround at
sure,
the end.
it would be better.
But so there's some logistics issues there. It's not as simple as putting up a blockade and stopping traffic. But
But it doesn't have to be perfect, does it?
It needs to be close to perfect. Yes.
Fantastic.
Perfect is a relative thing.
It is fair to say that, at least based on what we've heard, that the traffic problems are generated by 50 and not likely to be generated by this project.
But looking at the map, it's a shortcut, as opposed to making two stops off of Shamrock, and I get it.
And excuse me, Tom.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in that vein, it makes a pretty strong argument for doing something whether the development happens or not. Right?
Well, quite honestly, for the record, there's 8 total signatures on the written testimony that Mr. Shanley provided, so it's not just the 2 that spoke today. But obviously, if you were to put a barricade, a guardrail, or whatever preventative measure to keep through traffic from north or south on certain aspects of Dundee, now Mr. Shanley has to go south on Dundee, go out Shamrock. There are obviously pros and cons to that decision. And I don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face, but I certainly would encourage the department and the developer to shy of a condition. Let's dig once and let's take into consideration the public comments, because I agree with you that this is a fitting proposal for this site and the zoning, and if we can address at the same time citizens' concerns, I think the county would be better represented. The citizenry would be better represented.
I'd like to address a couple of
Please do.
comments from both the adjacent landowners.
Tom, there's a lady back there would like to say something.
Yeah, I see Nancy.
I'm sorry.
We'll get to public comment if you mind, Ms. Kazari, just a moment. Let Mr. Davis.
Okay, so the project is actually exempt from adequate public facilities ordinance because it was a low number of trips to be created in the peak hour of traffic. So we have an exemption from the Department of Public Works. As part of the development, just to clarify, we are widening the road slightly on the frontage of the property. If you can zoom in on that corner property, Rob, please, the existing. So we're widening out Dundee Avenue along the frontage of the property to match the curb section right there on the parcel 92 on the corner. So on the project side, we are widening it, and then adding curb and gutter, and then the sidewalk behind that. So it's not just the sidewalk. So we are widening the road there, And as a condition of the development, we're doing a mill and overlay of the whole road from 18 out to the limits, the northern limits of the project development. So that will be paved and improved. The sanitary sewer vacuum main that's in Dundee Avenue will be upgraded from a 4-inch to a 6-inch line. So it should alleviate any backup flow issues unless we have the significant rains, which the vacuum system has issues with significant rains for inflow and I&I, they call it. So those two things, I just wanted to clarify that there are upgrades that the county did require for this development, and that it's exempt from adequate public facilities. As far as the property impacts, we addressed that during the growth allocation process because this used to be what's called limited development, so it was approved to be IDA. And one of the things that we had to address was that it was not going to be a negative impact on adjacent property owners, and then there was a positive economic impact to the county, which this was shown. And again, we're getting rid of a dilapidated building that's a tenant rental situation, and there's some issues with that. So I just wanted to address those two comments.
I'm not too sure that we're objecting to the project. We're objecting to the fact that the county hasn't addressed the issues that were being presented by the residents.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that we are widening the road.
I'm not suggesting that, the property owner, doing the development, I haven't heard anybody say, it's everything is correct. Problem is, what's DPW going to do? That this might be the last time at the apple, at the table for these folks to get something done. And so if they can incorporate it in, I'm not suggesting that the developer,
I was going to say that.
Reach into their pocket for a nickel in this process. They're doing what has to be done. But I think it's important to be on record that we expect the county to address the concerns of the individuals that have, signed the acknowledgement that this is a problem. And so to say it's gone on for years seems that we're not being responsive to that situation. And, there have been a couple alternatives, chatted about. And it should be put onto a higher list of getting it done as opposed to sitting here and chatting about it relative to a project that makes sense.
I just, on behalf of my client, we can't agree to, off-site road improvements that may require right-of-way condemnation and, all kinds of things come into play with that, so.
But what about, I don't know that you addressed having all your traffic, I'm gonna call it your traffic, come in off of, with Shamrock instead of entering Dundee?
We're interconnecting everything, so there will be that interconnectivity.
Why?
We're proposing interconnectivity.
No, I'm saying why interconnect? I mean, if traffic's an issue for them, why interconnect?
Primarily because the office building is going to be for their offices of the funeral home, which is immediately adjacent to it.
Maybe you're saying interconnectivity. I'm thinking you've got
Lots
it
together.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that you can enter from Shamrock or Dundee, right? That's what I'm.
It gets to there gets into intersection distance separations and whatever. Where there's already an existing access on Shamrock, and ultimately there would be some interconnectivity for the parcel on the corner. But
If you look at the screen right now, if you can, I don't know if you guys, can you see my cursor? I keep talking like you can. I guess I should have asked.
Yeah.
You can access the proposed development here, and it connects to the funeral home property, and you can exit here. And that's a requirement of the design standards in the TC and UC, is interconnectivity of the site for pedestrian and for drivers.
and we did the same thing with the two corner lots, I'll call them.
Well, why can't you just do away with the entrances onto Dundee?
Because it just wouldn't work with the existing operations of the funeral home and the location of the existing house. I mean, there's an existing residence on the corner that's to be retained. So, I mean,
Yeah,
this
try-
was
There's no,
thought out as a
what's the
master
point
plan.
of connecting them to the
Well,
other
this
property
was a
then?
master plan that was promoted back in 2014, and we've just continued with that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're here to the final stage, and, we're talking about redesign of roads and, access that had never been brought up. And, I understand the concerns of the neighbors, but the problem is more of a regional issue. The fact that Dundee Avenue is tied directly into Route 50. I mean, it's been like that for ever since I was a kid. Dundee Avenue and Route 50 always intersected. You know, there has been development in the area that's probably increased the traffic through there.
So the traffic the traffic generated by this development is like
I know.
Tom had indicated, it's under the threshold for additional consideration. And as far as the comments about addressing long-term issues of traffic on Dundee Avenue, I think this issue came up way back when DiDonato did the development adjacent to this property over by Shamrock. I have to confess, this is not my review. This is another staff member's review, so I'm going off of a briefing that we had yesterday with my comments. And what I described to you is informal discussions that we've had over the years go back to the DiDonato development. And I can also describe discussions that we've had when we did the Route 18 corridor study with in concert with SHA and trying to get potential state funding. We looked at Dundee Avenue, Shamrock Avenue, other things as critical connection points to get to 50. I will say, however, looking at this, Dundee Avenue appears to be unnecessary with the connection at Shamrock, and frankly, the Shamrock connection is a better connection for a couple reasons. It has some bends in it, which is a traffic calming feature. It's a shorter length, and it has another bend up there at the top as well. So that provides traffic calming. Dundee Avenue is frankly the worst case scenario. It is a straight runway right to 50, and clearly that's the observations of the residents. Excuse me. So while there has been discussion, I agree that nothing's come of those discussions, and it's something that we can look at. And what I described to you is my knowledge of history on this project, and I can report to you what we've discussed, but I can't tell you about any conclusions or any potential design. I don't imagine that at this point there's any design to remedy that situation. However, this meeting here today and the information we got from the community members, I'll take that back to DPW and discuss what options we do have. But I will say that it doesn't need to be perfect, but an emergency turnaround is critical.
Of course. And we're happy to pass along the written comments that were supplemented, may help you take this up with Mr. Moore. Yes. or the appropriate staff over at your department. But we appreciate your sincerity and your explanation and taking into consideration the comments of the residents. There is one other public comment. Ms. Scazzari?
Nancy Scazzari. I'm not here as county staff today, but actually property owner of 118 Dundee Avenue. And in renovating that property for rental over the past decade or so, I have observed exactly what's been spoken of here today. And while I do support the project and did review the project and made comments as to the safety, I'd just like to give a little bit of background. So Dundee is perhaps the oldest residential neighborhood on Kent Island that's sort of still exists the way it once was. It was just a handful of families, brothers and sisters that lived there, original farm owners. The street originally went north-south to the historic house known as Dundee, which is now part of Chester Haven Beach, but properties. Anyway, it's substandard as far as roads go. We all know that. There's no street lighting, and it is, as Trey just mentioned, a straightaway 250. And it's not just local residents have realized that when 18 backs up, which, as you all know, from the 552 to 18 intersection, backs up almost every weekend, from May to October. Dundee is the preferred option to get to 50, and people don't do a speed limit. I don't think she's still there, but there was a long time handicapped child living in the neighborhood. There's small children have moved in. And as far as housing goes, these are homes that starter families or older people can afford and still have a backyard, still be close to amenities, to a shopping center that they could walk to. So I think without streetlights, without curb and gutter, without regular road width, there's lots of room for improvement. And I was one of the ones who commented during review, but also informally to Trey that looking at whether it's a Jersey barrier or a guardrail or whatever, Dundee doesn't have to be blocked in completion from 50, but partly so that vehicles can still make that turn onto the road that goes into Red Apple Plaza. So it's not completely blocked off, but it's barricaded from that straightaway, which incurs more speed. So I think there's opportunities, and Trey sounds like he and his staff are going to take a look at it, and just appreciate you considering it. Thank you.
Any other comments that were, Mr. Shanley, if you make it brief?
Yes, sir. I would just make a comment about what the gentleman before us said about blocking the end of Dundee Road. I'd just like to be on record as saying I would be and my neighbors would be for that. And as I passed out in the paperwork in 1989, that was proposed before the council as well to put up some sort of barricade. Whether or not doing that is conditional on this project moving forward is up to you, but that would be something we would be in favor of.
Great.
Thank you.
Trey, if you want, or John, do you mind if you pass that on to Trey, please? Any other public comment? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion, or if there's further discussion for that matter.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission regarding the request by Eastern Shore Exodus LLC for major site plan approval for redevelopment of 3 parcels along Dundee Avenue to include an 8-unit residential apartment building and a second building with first floor office space and 3 one-bedroom, second floor commercial apartments, and as more particularly described in Department of Planning and Zoning File SP number 20-02-0051, hereby finds that the major site plan is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations, the 2010 comprehensive plan, and the 2007 Chester-Stevensville Community Plan, and hereby grants major site plan approval subject to the following conditions. 1, any remaining edits and/or documents required by a reviewing agency, the Department of Public Works or Planning and Zoning, must be reviewed and approved. 2, the architecture, lighting, and overall design must substantially reflect the documents provided. 3, the administrative subdivision must be approved and recorded prior to final site plan signature. 4, per the September 13th, 2018 approval of the increase in density to 20 units per acre, the applicant shall provide information to indicate that the apartments will provide workforce, age-restricted, or other moderately priced housing. 5, any required legal documents must be approved, signed, and recorded. 6, any required bonds, sureties, review, and inspection fees must be submitted to the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning and Zoning as appropriate. And 7, all required signatures must be obtained.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make a suggestion, though, that we send a note to the commissioners to ask the Department of Public Works to meet with the neighborhood and discuss changing the traffic pattern there?
Not quite sure it needs to go
I
that
don't know.
route necessarily.
I don't
think
know.
we've impressed
I
upon Mr.
don't want to step
Porter
on
that
anybody's toes.
He's supposed, it's my assumption that Mr. Porter has his marching orders.
You can do that if you'd like, but I can assure you that we will reach out to the community and
Okay, and will
do that.
you come back to us and give us a report?
I can do that,
I
certainly.
appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Fantastic. Good. Thank you very much. Whoops, wrong one. My agenda. There we go. I'll be right back. Yeah. All right, next up, Mr. Gunther, major subdivision 05-18-05-0007, Whitetail Land Group, Inc., Fawn Lane, west of Graysonville Cemetery Road, DMS, and Mr. Gunther.
Would you like to wait for Mr. Sylvester? He, I believe, is the only one of you that has not seen this. This was back in November, I believe, for preliminary approval.
I don't
I'm
mind.
happy to proceed if
I
you
don't
would
mind.
like.
Everybody's queued up to go,
I'm
as
ready.
far as you're aware? I don't mind waiting a minute. I don't want to break because then things fall apart. We could play some elevator music or something.
You can take me off of that. Thank you. I thought you had that.
Job number was originally 2008.
You want to do this for me? Yeah. Pretty please?
Bill gets here.
How are the kids? How they doing in college?
We're actually going down this weekend to see him.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's the first time we've seen him in, I guess probably since they came home for Christmas.
They're
Should be-
pilots
should
out there. 16, 18-hour flight.
Doing all right.
That's good.
Grades are okay. That's
It's always,
threatening.
as long as they're passing, I'm good, you know?
No, but it's going well. We're having a good time. How about your boys?
All right, Mr. Sylvester's back. Shall we? Mr. Gunther?
All right.
Floor is yours.
So before you now is the Whitetail Land Group, who is proposing an administrative subdivision to reconfigure an existing right-of-way, a couple lots, in order to create 5 additional lots in an existing neighborhood in the Graysonville Planned Residential Neighborhood. This project was before you back in November of '21 for preliminary approval. Nothing has changed, so today they're seeking final major subdivision approval. So here we are in Graysonville on the west side of Graysonville Cemetery Road. This is an aerial image of the 2 parcels that are subject to this review. You can see there are 17 existing lots in the neighborhood, 14 of which are currently buildable. Property is located within the Graysonville growth area, and it is zoned GPRN. As I mentioned, there's an administrative subdivision proposed. It will reconfigure the right-of-way as well as parcel 369, lot 17. You can see here the dashed lines are proposed to be removed, and the solid lines are the new property lines, effectively getting rid of the cul-de-sac and changing it, creating a much more rectangular lot configuration for lot 16. And then this would be the result of the 5 additional new lots and the new location of the cul-de-sac. As I mentioned, 14 buildable lots currently exist. The additional 5 will bring the total to 19 total buildable lots in this neighborhood. So in the GPRN, the Planning Commission determines bulk standards such as the setbacks, minimum lot size, building height, road frontage, and so on. Through previous approvals, all of this has already been established. This current proposal is consistent with all those requirements. To create these new 5 lots, 1.23 acres of woodland are proposed to be cleared. The applicant is proposing to place into long-term protection 2.67 acres of woodland, which will address the Forest Conservation Act requirements. Those will be located in 5 separate areas, one of which is off-site, but is adjacent to the proposal. The property does contain non-tidal wetlands. There is minimal disturbance proposed, and the applicant does have a letter of